How many of you here live over 30 miles away from where you work? It's a long way to walk. Market towns are approximately 30 miles apart. Okay? And the reason for this is it's about a day's trip to and from market on foot. And you know you will be in a safe situation, wouldn't have to camp out at night in the scary outdoors. So market towns are about 30 miles apart. It is not unusual for many people to live 30 miles or more from where they work. The need to pay for transportation in some form or another is critical to get to their place of work. Staff are a key vulnerability in terms of oil prices for most organisations. Either they need more money to be able to get to work, and how many organisations have lots more money in their back pocket to be able to pay such price increases, or they're going to have to find a job closer to home, or they're going to have to buy a house closer to where they work. Significant potential disruption. Once we begin to add staffing as a vulnerability, we can see instability in costs increases to about 90%, up to 100% in certain types of function. It's a serious threat to individual organisations, not just business organisations, commercial organisations, but organisations of all sorts. All of us are hit by costs. All of us have to have staff. The impact on the individual I've kind of explaining is it's their threat to jobs. If the economy goes down, people are going to lose their jobs. It's a threat to transportation, their ability to get to the workplace. I'm lucky. I live 12 minutes cycling distance away from where I work, so I cycle in. But I'm one of the lucky ones. Not everybody's like that. When I talk around my place of work, I know many of the staff are concerned about increases in costs, the fact that we're losing a lot of our parking space, anecdotally, is quite important. Staff are basically saying if they can't park and they can't bring the car in, then they can't come to work. They're going to have to find another job or just leave work altogether. Energy.
We could all move, Simon, to Everton Brow, and that would get them in.
Everton Brown?
Everton.
Oh, Everton. Maybe. It's not necessarily the most desirable of places. Energy costs as well is going to be hit. And we've seen energy costs going up and up and up. And however much gas prices and that come down, energy prices don't seem to come down to match it. And food prices, they will continuously be hit as well because of the dependence on food production upon oil-based products. And household finances are extremely weak. 169% of annual income in 2008 was the kind of debt an average house was carrying. They kind of have to work to keep that debt up. If they don't work, we've got even potentially bigger debt crisis on our hands. Our banks are still at threat. Our banks still have a huge problem because the amount of debt that has fueled 15 years of growth. Real income growth at the moment is still weak. And I would suspect as we go forward and the cuts come into play, it will be undermined further. And as people lose their jobs in the public sector, well, that's more money being taken out of the economy, not being spent. It will weaken the economy further, okay? So what's the impact on the council? There's the impact on your costs, for one, quite clearly. Go back and find out how far your staff have to travel. Find out especially how far the key ones have to travel. Can you get them into work to do their job as prices go up and up? Are you likely to lose them? Are you likely to lose key skills within your organisation? But also, you're going to find increased business. Greater the recession, the more unemployment, the more people who are going to be seeking the services that you offer. More vulnerable people created, more children in vulnerable positions, more elderly in vulnerable positions. Fuel poverty, we get winters like we had the last one, the more fuel poverty we will see amongst elderly people, the more problems we will see in that kind of sense. Greater demand for those services I mentioned. At the same time, as we're getting greater and greater constraints on public spending and public borrowing. I'm not an expert in the public sector. I've looked at a couple of public sector organisations, a hospital and a small part of one local authority. Private sector is what I know best. You're the guys who know how local authorities work and can best interpret how this will impact upon your organisations. Oil lies at the heart of our society. We really are petroleum man. The whole of our economy is configured around cheap oil. We cannot continue to increase the rate of production. In fact, it looks more and more like we've reached the maximum rate of production, anywhere between 86 to 90 million barrels a day. As that production rate drops, it will have a threat, an impact on our economy. And also the way in which our own country's particular energy system is configured, heavily reliant on gas at the moment, it will have a threat to our energy security. We will need a greater mix of different things producing the energy that we require to keep industry running, to keep the country running. We also have ageing infrastructure that I think Phil was mentioning before as well, where there's a potential impact. Our nuclear power stations, we're going to have to be looking at changing them soon, and they produce a significant amount of our energy. Where is that energy going to come from? Serious threat to our economic health, a threat to what county councils, what all local authorities can do for the people that they represent, that they're supposed to be looking after. And quite clearly, as we begin to see now, reduced income for public services. This might sound like a huge threat and a huge horrific thing that's going to happen to us, but it's also a great opportunity for us to rethink about how the state and the role of the state towards the citizen and how we provide those services. We have to think more innovatively. We have to think more creatively about how we provide our services. Again, today I was listening to the news and Cameron's talking about how we need to think about, can certain services be provided by the private sector, by the voluntary sector, and these are kind of ideas we're going to have to think about more and more, because the needs of the public sector isn't going away, it's going to probably increase, but the money we've got to be able to do it, we need to be able to target much more effectively and much more efficiently. And I think after scaring you enough, I'll stop there. And I think it's handing it back to Phil. And somebody's robbed me seat while I was stood up talking.
The price of oil is